You're live.
Good morning. This is Senate Transportation Committee. It's Wednesday, January 31st. We are, there's our fifth member, and Naz is on Zoom. And we're going to have our council and Thea Cooper come up and run through S256. I haven't looked online if that new version is posted.
Yeah. I'll share it too.
Okay.
The mentorship, I'm getting a board. I guess I should show.
Like usual.
Who's honoring her now?
Yeah.
It's,
Okay. We are going to, so the S256 was one of two bills that we had dealing with veteran license plates. So we, her testimony, and then we asked Ledge Council to kind of draft a new version that are kind of combining those two things that I've sensed from our last discussions that we're pretty much in agreement with. So I just wanted to go through the language and then we just vote this bill out.
Great.
Okay, so thank you for setting that up. For the record, Anthea Dexter Cooper from the Office of Legislative Counsel. So you have on your wall two bills dealing with veterans. S256 dealt with basically like the definition of who is a veteran, and S264 dealt with the veterans plates that are offered by the DMV. S256, you decided not to make any changes to, but within S256, section 3 is the only section that is in S264. So you'll see, and I have up on the screen right now, S256, you'll see that S256 was adding in the piece about the second definition for veteran to get people who were disabled during active military, naval, air, or space service. And then if you go down, that's where you start to see the language on line 19, talking about the type and style of the plate shall be determined by the commissioner. And then it talks about the American flag or veteran symbol, and then down at the top of page 5 is where you get the listing of the few plates that are the at a minimum these plates shall be offered. That language is reproduced in S264, the only section in S264. So what your amendment does is it combines S256 without making any changes and S264 with changes, and the changes that are made to the language in S264, and I'm going to go back to the first section in a second.
I had vertigo here.
Sorry. So this is the substantive section that is the combination of the two. You see on lines 19, 20, and 21, it's preserving what was in S256, so that additional definition for veteran, and then going down where you had the language that in S264 was saying we're going to list out all of the plates that are currently offered. This instead takes the approach to say that the type and style of the plates shall be determined by the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles and the Vermont Office of Veterans Affairs, and then it strikes out the ones that are the at a minimum, these shall be offered. But to frame everything, you're adding a new section. I'm going to scroll, sorry.
I was going to say, where is our new?
Yes, so this is section 1, and then everything gets renumbered. It's a legislative intent section. It's saying that it's the intent of the General Assembly for the state to properly honor Vermonters who are veterans, which includes, and then it's taking the language from the new language that's being cited from the United States Code, which includes Vermonters who have served in the active military, naval, air, or space service, and who have been discharged or released from active service under conditions other than dishonorable, where active military, naval, air, or space service includes. And then it's the number 2 that's listed here on lines 15, 16, and 17. That's capturing the person who was sort of like the inspiration for the change in language. So this was someone who was injured during a period of active duty for training and was disabled or died from a disease or injury incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. And then 3 is the last piece of that definition. You then have subsection B, which goes on to say that it is the intent of the General Assembly that the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Vermont Office of Veterans Affairs jointly determine which specialty plate should be offered to Vermonters who are veterans, so as to ensure specific recognition for those who have received military award.
You have the combat.
Yep, have combat in there, and allow for a means for a Vermonter who is a veteran to request that a new specialty plate be designed and offered to Vermonters who are veterans, when an existing specialty plate does not provide for the specific recognition of the Vermonter who is a veteran. This language has been looked at by the DMV and also by the Office of Veterans Affairs, and they didn't have any changes. It's also been looked at by Damien to make sure I didn't botch any of my veterans language. The way the amendment is structured is you're adding this section in new, it's section 1, renumbering everything. So what was section 3 is now section 4, and then making the amendments to section 4 to be the combination of 256 and 264.
So I have a question. Can you be a resident of another state who's in Vermont for a period of time and you're not a Vermont resident? We're using the term Vermonter. And don't we issue plates to people? I'm just wondering, does Vermonter
Right.
mean residents?
Yeah.
So this is in your legislative intent section. It's not going to necessarily have the same definitions of like resident that you have in statute. However, if you think back to your miscellaneous motor vehicle bill, there is language in there where you're talking about a temporary resident and who is a temporary resident to say that the DMV may issue plates and registrations. I think it's just registrations to them, which would be what would then trigger the ability to get the veteran license plate. So I think if the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill moves with the language that's been proposed by the department, and this language moves, if you were a temporary resident, say you had like a second home here, you would be able to get a veteran plate on the vehicle that is here if you meet that definition of temporary
But
resident.
we keep using it for a Vermonter, and that's why I was raising the question.
Would you like that to say a Vermont resident who is a veteran?
I don't know. I don't. That's why I'm raising the
Right, because
question.
if you're a Vermonter, but you live in New Hampshire, like, what does it mean? Vermonter's not defined, but it's
Correct.
officials.
So if you're a resident in Florida and you register a car up here and you are a veteran, do we need to nullify that just to say a person registering a plate? Because that would be possible, would it not?
Or a resident.
You could,
Well, resident would eliminate the temporary, preclude the temporary. Residents, like the summer homes that we've addressed in the other language. And,
could say, it is the intent of the General Assembly for the state to properly honor veterans. So not say Vermonters who are veterans, which includes Vermonters who have served in the active military.
Yeah.
It is the intent of the General Assembly for the state to properly honor veterans. So we'll strike out Vermonters who are.
Which includes Vermonters who've served in.
And the intent language is found by somebody looking this up in the future now.
So what you can do, or what the Office of Legislative Counsel can do, and I will leave a note to someone to try and make sure that this happens, is if you look in the green books, the A, when we say VSA, Vermont statutes annotated, there are annotations, and the annotations frequently include things from session law that are useful in understanding how to interpret statute. So I can leave a note saying that this legislative intent section should be left as a note in the green book. So it'll be there in conjunction with the statutes that are being amended.
What's the criteria for a Vermont resident? 6 months? Is that?
So you are required, I believe it is 60 days. Why don't I look at the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill? But then for purposes of the temporary residency, it talks about basically if you were staying here on a temporary basis. But let's get the actual.
there's no durational requirement. I could move in and all I have to do is state intent and I'm a resident. You cannot, we've had court cases that, you know, because particularly around eligibility for benefits, and you can't impose a durational requirement.
So resident are required to register within 30 days. And resident would be defined as an individual living in the state who intends to make the state the individual's place of domicile, either permanently or for an indefinite number of years. And then the definition that you would be adding for temporary resident, and that's the may register. Temporary resident means an individual living in the state for a particular purpose involving a defined period, including students, migrant workers employed in seasonal occupations, and individuals employed under a contract with a fixed term, provided that the motor vehicle will be used in the state on a regular basis. That was better than me trying to remember that.
Okay, So you don't have, did you want to print out of the Senator Kitchell, the language?
Well, I would need to change it.
Right, well, we have that one small.
To properly honor veterans, and I guess that takes care of it.
Um,
Other references.
there is one more.
limiting Too, I think.
So in, on lines 3 and 4 on page 2, jointly determine which specialty plates should be offered to, we could just say to veterans.
Yeah,
In line 7.
Where
My way down?
allow
For a veteran.
For a veteran to request,
In 10, 6, or in 8, yeah.
offered to Vermonters who are, yeah, we've got Vermonters peppered throughout here.
All right.
specific recognition of the veteran. Okay, so
I think what makes sense, because this is not just a one change, is since I think you scheduled this until 9:30, can I run to my office, make this change, come back with paper copies?
And then we can vote it out.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
I'll be right back.
Go run.
I'll scurry.
Right.
It feels wrong to run through these halls, but
Yeah.
scurrying feels okay.
Okay. Well, we can take a break,
Go off,
because we don't have any other thing to do, so yeah, we'll adjourn for